Okay, everybody, welcome back to the Black Carnivore podcast. I am really excited to be here tonight. Hopefully, you can all hear me. We're having a little audio trouble today, and I just want to make sure that everybody can hear me. So let me know. Arian, can you hear me? What? Okay, now I can't hear you. That's so funny. How exciting. Okay, so hold on one sec while we figure out the sound things, and then we'll make sure that we are able to go forward with this awesome show. Okay, how about now? Can you hear me? Arian, can you hear me? Okay, I can't hear you. How about everybody in the chat? Can you all hear me? Okay, Katora hears me. So that's weird that I can't hear you. Um, hmm. So, hey, everybody in the chat, let me know if you can hear Arian. Arian, go ahead and talk. Oh, okay. Wait, Arian is possibly in the green room, so I am gonna fix that. Can't hear Arian. Gotcha. So that is definitely my fault. Um, hmm. Okay. Arian, are you in the green room now? Or are you out of the green room? Huh. Let's see. Arian, I think you're here. You're not in the green room. Still can't hear you. Okay. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Huh. I don't know what's going on. I don't seem to be able to get you in, Arian. Um, can you try using your phone instead of your computer? It might just be, some incompatibility this about this time. So everybody, all right. So let me let me see. All right, everyone. So I'm really excited to have you back here tonight. I'm sorry about all the technical difficulties, but this stuff tends, it happens sometimes, and hopefully we'll be able to get it all set up. But we have So we have an interesting show tonight. I wanted to actually talk about emotional eating. So I don't know if you all remember, maybe a week or two ago, I had on Florence Christophers who talked to us about emotional eating and sugar addiction. And she was really helpful for me. She really helped me to kind of figure out, how to deal with my own sugar addiction. And I found it very, very helpful and very powerful. So I brought her on the show, and she talked about the sugar addiction. And whoops, now I'm gone. There we go. So she talked about sugar addiction and how to deal with it. And she also talked about emotional eating as something that's sort of separate from sugar addiction. And I do think that that is, really important to focus on, because it's important to understand the distinction, because both things are things that happen. And she's actually having a summit this week, a free summit this week on emotional eating, and it's free for the 1 week. You have to, like, each day, there's a bunch of videos to watch, and you can watch them for free on that day, but then they're gone thereafter. So you so I encourage you to go and sign up. I think I put the link in her video. So I encourage you to go and sign up, and check out her the summit, because there are some really interesting videos. So I've been watching the last 3 days, and I came up, I really had some thoughts about it, and I thought that this was something we should talk about tonight because emotional eating is a real thing, and it's something that a lot of people struggle with. So when we talked about the sugar addiction, the way we talked about it on her show was that, it's like a biological thing that happens. Sugar is like a drug and it acts on your brain and it makes your brain function differently because it's in your system. Emotional eating is a different thing where you're going to food for comfort. And those two things kind of can get mixed because people often go to sugar for comfort, which causes, which has this like real physiological response on your body, but it is still separate from emotional eating. And I kind of think emotional eating is something that, we're kind of, I don't know if we're born with it, but we're ingrained with it. As a baby, when a baby cries, you offer food. And so it's like naturally sort of, hardwired into our brains to to think about food for support when there's something that's bothering us. But how much we do that and how much we eat and what we eat when we do that, is kind of what varies amongst us. So Arian, do you feel like you emotional eat? Like what's your experience been with it?
Definitely. The For me, I think my main reason is boredom, but it's been a thing that I noticed probably since I finished college and started like a real job where I just sat down and also like had access to food because it was an office
Mhm.
job. Like there would be times where I wasn't hungry, but I just wanted to chew on something.
Yeah,
And I realized that I don't get that feeling when I'm like being productive and not bored. It
yeah,
never happens. So it would happen at work that I would feel like snacking throughout the day. And then like I'd take a day off and be home. And that day at home, I didn't snack at all. I'd actually eat less. Like even regular food, I would eat less just because I'm so focused on whatever fun things I'm doing that I don't even think to eat.
yeah, yeah. So that's a great point. So boredom or resentment about being someplace doing something you don't really want to be doing. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah. And I think that it's actually a really good idea to kind of dive in a little bit on emotional eating. And so I see that we have a bunch of people here in the chat. We have a bunch of people watching. Thank you so much. And a lot of you are chatting as well. So hey, welcome. I see Evelyn and Mr. Gavel and Keturah and GMO. Wow, today was a great day. Just got 14 pounds of ribeye for $5 a pound. Wow. Wow.
Nice.
Lucky. Yeah.
I'm jealous.
Yeah. Me too. Me too. Um, and we have Shar Shar, hey, and Hollis Ann Struve. Nice to see you from is that Arkansas? AR? Or
I
yeah.
think so.
That's awesome. And Keturah, good to see you. And let's see. Wow, a lot of people here. So, Shar Shar, thank you. I try to stay calm. I see we've got Southern California in the house. Great to see you. Dallas, nice. Missouri, wow, awesome. Yeah. So let's see. And some emotionally eat sugary foods. Yes. Um, and then Mr. Gavel says, before I lost my gallbladder, I definitely ate when I was stressed, happy, and sad. Yes.
Mm.
Um, and Evelyn says, sugar used to be my go-to food for emotional support. Yes, boredom, needing a job, snacking is emotional eating. I usually use carnivore foods for emotional eating now. Yeah. So, so I wonder for everyone here, when do you emotionally? How do you even identify that for yourself? I type it in the chat. And I would say for me, um, I've just decided that anything that isn't hunger is emotional eating. And the thing is, when I went keto, there's still a lot of like, legal snack foods and sort of junk foods that you can have. I mean, even if you're eating very whole foods keto, there's still a lot that you can like um, eat for emotional reasons and still get that bump and that pleasure. But on
Hmm.
carnivore, it's all gone. It's just all gone. And like bacon is sort of marginally in that category, but for me anyway, bacon is still like food, so there's still a limit
Yep.
to how much of it I can eat before I'm just like nauseated. So, I found that once I went carnivore and really was on it, there was no more, there was nothing left to buffer life, you know? There was nothing to like soften the blow. And that was for me the hardest thing to do. That was the hardest part because I've been relying on food, not only sugar, but just emotional eating my entire life to deal with all difficulties. And now there's just nothing. So carnivore is helpful, but it also kind of it forces you to find other solutions. So, what would you say, Arian? What have you figured out? How have you dealt with that?
Oh, as far as like other solutions, um,
Or did you even notice
I
that? Because I've definitely
um
heard other carnivores be like, there's no drugs, there's no alcohol, there's no candy, there's nothing. Like, I just got to sit here with my feelings.
I think what one thing that helped a lot, or I don't even know if this really. I'm just gonna tell you what happened in my life. I'm not gonna necessarily say that it's good or not, but I don't bust my ass at my job all the time, and there are times where I'm really not feeling it, and I take more of those days off now. Like I kind of have to. Whereas like it would be easy to get through a day with food. I don't have that luxury anymore.
Hmm.
Um, but I actually feel better just to from the job specifically take the time off. And I think in general, like we we soothe a lot of our feelings with food instead of
Hmm.
actually dealing with those feelings. So if you're doing something that you don't feel like doing and the only way that you can get through it is alcohol, that's another thing. So for me, a big thing was alcohol. Y'all have heard me talk about it before. Um, as I got rid of it, I also had to get rid of certain things I was doing.
Hmm.
Like if I'm at a happy hour but not having fun, so the only thing that I'm doing, like the only actual activity that's enjoyable about it is me drinking, then I don't need to be there.
Hmm.
And cutting out stuff like that actually made me happier. But I think it's scary to do that because it means like a new life.
Yeah.
Um, I really do. I take much more time off of work than I ever did before.
Yeah.
I say no to a lot more things. I spend a lot more time by myself doing exactly what I feel like doing than I did before. Um, I think you have to. I don't know that I found like a bunch of other things that were like the same sort of quick fix. I don't think that anything healthy is going to be that quick fix.
Hmm. Yeah. So I agree. I mean, at a certain point, you have to start looking at your life and your choices and decide, if there's really this much discomfort, like maybe you have to make some other choices.
Just maybe.
Yeah. I mean, it's a hard thing, obviously. I mean, some of these things are big changes. Like if you hate your job, that's that's a big change, but and
Hmm.
not something that can necessarily happen right away. But I like the idea of what you're saying, like taking more time off, or just saying no to more things, trying to, really limit how much of your time and effort you put into the job.
Right. I just screwed up my browser somehow. I may have to leave and come back. If so, I'll be right back.
Okay, I can hear you and see you.
I can't see the thing though now. I don't know what
Oh,
happened. I stopped using Chrome on this phone and that was weird.
okay.
Anyway, yeah, I'll be right
All
back.
right. Okay. All right. Well, so for everybody who's still here, the thing that I was thinking about today was, when I first really tried to start getting in touch with my emotions and kind of figuring out what's going on, I can you hear me now?
Okay.
Okay, great.
Yep.
The thing that I did was I found this exercise in some book where for 3 days I was for every time I had an urge to eat, I was supposed to write down exactly what I was thinking or doing in the 30 seconds prior to that thought. And in this one particular day, I didn't even do it for 3 days. I did it for one day, but I like all day my mind was like going to food. And so I kept recording it. So I had like, I don't know, 30 or 40 incidences written down. And it became pretty clear pretty quickly a lot of patterns of the type of thinking that triggered me to eat. And so, but just taking that exercise and forcing myself to do it really forced me into my head, into my body, and got me to start seeing some of the patterns and the thinking that was going on. And I've read a lot of books and a lot of things about emotional eating, and there's all kinds of like tips and tricks and suggestions and stuff. But at the end of the day, like they all kind of boil down to you have to learn to sit with your feelings and sit with being uncomfortable and change the things if you
Mm,
can. But if you can't change them, you just have to like live with that. And I think a lot of times we're pretty disconnected from our emotions. And one of the things that I did was start looking at lists of emotions to start familiarizing myself with what emotions are. And I don't know if anybody did you watch that movie a couple of years ago about that, oh, I forgot what it was, like it was about these emotions in this girl's head, and they
oh,
were
I love that
different
movie.
things. Yeah, but it was an interesting way to kind of get you to think about your feelings and really kind of get connected with them and not try to override them or push them away, but just feel them. So I found this list today which I thought might be helpful to look at. I don't know, can you all see this? So this is not an exhaustive list by any means of all of the emotions in the world, but I think it's helpful to take a look at to just kind of get a sense of the things that you're feeling. Now these all are pretty negative. I don't know why. There are lists that also have positive emotions on them as well, but I think it's helpful to kind of dig in when you're feeling, when you're feeling like I feel stressed and bad, to kind of dig in on what it is, because once you do, you can kind of figure out, what the solution is. But you're not going to be able to figure out a solution if you don't really know what you're feeling.
Hmm. So we got angry, sad, anxious, hurt, embarrassed, and happy. Yeah, it sucks that there's only one category of positive
I know,
feelings.
I know. Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, Mr. Gavel says people eating in front of him is the worst, feeling left out. Um, Evelyn's with Shar on taking a walk. Yep, that's another way of sort of
Mhm.
handling it. Evelyn also uses coffee. That helps. Hey, it's great to see you. Katora likes coffee. Um,
So the movie is Inside Out,
oh, yeah, yeah,
where they're all like at a control center and
yeah,
different parts of her are taking over her actions at
yeah,
different times. Yep,
yeah,
great movie.
yeah. So, for me, that was something that I really have been working on to a great extent. And then also, trying to find solutions for the things that are bothering me rather than just trying to eat through them. I think that it is like I don't think that we should necessarily beat ourselves up for emotional eating because I think everybody does it and it's just kind of part
Hmm.
of the human experience. And I'm not even sure we can expect ourselves not to ever do it. But we want to expand our toolkit so that we have more things to rely on. And I think that, it's hard when we're listening to people talk about emotional eating because so often they're conflating, that sugar addiction with the emotional eating. And since we've removed the sugar stuff, it's hard to, we're not having that biological drive to eat sugar that's driven by, poor nutrition.
Hmm.
So we're not binging for that reason, but there are other reasons. And so that's why I kind of wanted to talk about it tonight because there's a little bit of a difference. But like I said, I wanted to hear from you all what you do for to soothe yourself emotionally. I heard walking and coffee, um, and
Yeah. And then I like what Mr. Gavel just said. Working out helps with his stress, which indirectly keeps him from wanting a snack. Like
hmm
that, that to me is like the end goal
hmm
is you're going to be stressed on a regular basis. You're going to have your short-term strategies for dealing with that stress in the moment, but overall, you want to minimize your stress. And the working out for him does that, and for a lot of people does that. You're just
yeah,
feeling a general level of aggression and frustration and whatever other emotions throughout the day, and you can work all that out. Um, I was just talking to a woman who was saying that she loves hitting a punching bag, because that just like everything that she's feeling, everything that she's been mad about for the past week or whatever, it's all going into that bag.
yeah, yeah. That's true. That can do that.
I mean, it's one way to go. It's better
Yeah,
than punching a person.
yeah, yeah. So I don't really know what I do. I think I one of the things that I think I wasn't doing at the worst of the times was giving myself an outlet for joy and giving myself permission to like just have a good time. And so I
Mm.
have been trying to come up with or make space for hobbies that I enjoy and activities that I enjoy and allow myself to do those things. And I think that has really helped a lot.
Yeah, I think that's huge, actually.
Hmm
A lot of people feel like life is not meant to be enjoyed, or that you have to earn the enjoyment every step of the way. You can't
hmm
just have a time that is just about being happy. Like there has to be work attached to it.
hmm
And I can only
Yeah,
imagine the amount of stress and pressure that puts a person under.
yeah. I definitely had that feeling. I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's something I've sort of just kind of grown out of, but I definitely had that feeling like, you got to be working all the time and hustling and doing everything to improve your career. And, now I feel like, oh, what waste, what a waste. Wasted all that
Hmm.
time being young and just enjoying myself. So,
Right. And then feeling bad after you do,
hmm
like you spend the night out, or you just talk to people all night, or whatever the fun thing is. And then the next morning you're like, oh God, I wasted the whole day. I could have been so much more productive. I could have gotten so much more done.
yeah,
I
yeah,
used to do that. That's the other reason, like me taking off work is a thing now, because it didn't used to be. I used to never take off work.
yeah, yeah, totally agree. I see Mr. Gavel says sparkling water is clutch for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. But I was really trying to break the habit of connecting um, just, mouth and chewing with emotional anything. So even if
Mm.
it is, you know, calorie or carb free or, legal, I kind of wanted to cut this whole connection of eating with emotion. So, so
Yeah.
for me, I kind of decided I want to cut out snacking. Like I definitely saw people in the chat talking about like coffee or um, pork rind chips. So there are certainly carnivore snack items or things that you can eat for for pleasure. And
Hmm.
like I can pack in a lot of pepperoni before it's like I can't eat anymore. But like
Right.
yeah, but there's only so many pork chops. No matter what, like it's one, and then we're done. So, I've been trying to break away from the idea of eating at all when I'm having any kind of an emotional thing and just
Yeah.
look to something else altogether.
Yeah. Like one of our regulars, Delisa, told us one time in a Zoom that she had a sign that she had, I guess, printed out and she put it on her fridge and it said, "Why are you here?" So every time she went to the fridge, she had to answer that question. And
I
I thought it was
I
genius.
remember. I have the same sign on my refrigerator now, still. I still look
It's
at it
a
every day.
it's a
Yeah,
great strategy. Like, what are you
yeah,
doing here? Why are
yeah.
you here? So um I think I think generally the more we emotionally eat, the more we are eating unnaturally as well.
Hmm.
Like that one pepperoni that turns into 20 or
Hmm.
the whole pack or whatever, but you weren't hungry. The couple pork rinds that turns into the whole bag, but you weren't hungry.
Hmm.
Um, I guess for me, I pretty much quit snacking by the time I went carnivore, but it was very easy. I'll go back to the sugar days, the donut hole that turned into the whole box by the time the end of the day was done. I should have just took my ass home from work, but I stayed at work. I kept eating and I kept working. That's not good for a healthy Aryan.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I like better the methods of, I guess, emotion resolution that don't involve eating.
Hmm. Yeah. So, what is that
Um,
for you,
I think
let's say?
for me specifically,
Like the last bad day you had at work where you're like, man, I'm sick of this.
lucky for me, I work from home and I work a job where I can control my own schedule. Like
Hmm.
there's no, I don't have a hawk for a boss. There's nobody micromanaging me. So I can just get up at any time. So that's what I do. I get up, I go in the kitchen, cook some food for later or whatever I was thinking about. I may just turn away from the computer and look at my phone into something that's more interesting. Um,
How often does that happen?
I mean, with work,
No, that you
a
take
couple
those
times.
breaks.
Oh yeah, that's what I mean. It's at least a couple times a day, every
Hmm.
work day. Like I
So,
regularly am trying to work and then telling myself, this ain't happening right now. I got to do something else.
right. So I think that we need more breaks than we give ourselves credit for. And I think a lot of times, like I would try to be, staying focused for like 2 hours straight. And like even with
Mm,
the Pomodoro method, like you're supposed to get 5 minutes every 25 minutes. Like our brains just don't stay focused for that length of time. So it's fine. It seems to make sense that you would have multiple breaks. And do you have fun
yeah,
things that you can do in your break?
yeah. Like anytime I go in the kitchen to cook or something, like that's actually relaxing for me. The cooking, the washing dishes, all that stuff. I'm weird that way. I enjoy those things.
Oh, I have some dishes
I,
for you. You can come here and wash the dishes.
as long as your kitchen is laid out decent, I'll wash them and be happy doing it. Like, let me do that and like play a podcast or something. Or some music. I'm good.
Well, a bunch of people
Um,
here talked about listening to YouTube or podcasts in the background while doing chores and stuff. Yeah. So that's a great
yeah,
way to relax. Hmm.
yeah, like that's perfect for me. Like the chore itself doesn't occupy enough of my brain. So there's
Hmm.
like the physical thing I'm doing, that's the chore. And then if I can put on something that's interesting too, so that I guess the intelligent part of my brain is occupied too, like that's
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah. Yeah.
The part that wants to think about something.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, that's one of my things. Video games are always great. They just can suck me in, and then it's like an hour later, and I haven't gone back to what I was supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Um, and then like the normal stuff, watching a YouTube video. TV would be the same way, but it would have the same problem that games would have.
Yeah.
So, and I just TV doesn't interest me as much, so
Well,
I don't
for
tend
sure.
to do that as a break.
Yeah. Yeah. So I read on my Kindle, and that, I'm able to sort of keep to 10 or 15 minutes, and like that's like a good little break. Um,
Hmm.
Listening to music, like one or two songs, is a couple of minutes, and that can really lift my spirits, especially if it's like, an oldie but goodie. Um,
Hmm.
I try to stay out of the kitchen though, because when I find like, I might start to go and cook and stuff, but cooking, eating and clean up, like ends up, like that can suck up a good chunk of time. And I know, I'm kind of using it to fill time, which, is a great thing. So unless I'm actually hungry and ready for a meal, I might not actually do that. Um, Oh, and I wanted to shout out Mr. Gavel. Thank you so much for the super chat. So, reminder, everybody, if you like what we're providing here and you want to support us, you can click that little icon of a dollar sign down below and give a super chat or buy a super sticker and support the live stream. Um, so let's see. I see Evelyn says get a massage. Yeah, that is awesome.
If I
Um,
could do that every day,
hmm yeah. Katora says that she thinks carnivore naturally helps to eliminate the snacking, especially if you're using satiating foods. Yeah, I think that is true, except when snacking is an emotional event, as Dr. Saivez is always saying. So, which sometimes, it is definitely for me. Um,
mm,
and Evelyn says she makes tuna fish salad with pork rinds for the crackers. Yeah, yeah.
I
Um,
think for me, the another true part of what Couture said is that it it helped deal with the emotional problems that were causing the snacking in the first place. Like I
mhm,
do feel like being carnivore, it's easier to be in control of my emotions or to manage them, I should say. Don't control
mhm. Yeah. Yeah, certainly I feel more resilient and more emotionally stable, so
them.
that
Yeah.
difficult things are not as overwhelming as they once were. But there's definitely that in between moment where you're transitioning into keto and you're getting fat adapted when, you don't have your support system and you also are not fully like, emotionally resilient and strong. So that sucks. But you get through it.
Hmm.
Yeah. So wow, everybody's got a lot of chats in here. Sorry, I'm like getting behind. So fasting is another way. Fasting and OMAD are other tricks and techniques that people use. I mean, I think what I'm hearing here is that snacking when you're eating for entertainment is a problem. It's not that the food itself is a problem. So, if you're combining, I think like Evelyn said, making a tuna fish salad and using pork rinds as the crackers, and you're combining that, you're eating that as your meal, it's not a problem. The pork rinds are part of the meal, but it's when you're eating the pork rinds while you're sitting on the couch and feeling whatever your emotional feeling is, that's when it becomes a problem and you've got this repetitive hand motion going and you're not even really paying attention.
Hmm.
So, yeah. So that can be the problem. So, so for me, I think that one of the things that can be helpful is to set yourself some food rules that you just will not cross. And that can be really helpful. And like years ago, the first food rule I set up, this is long before carnivore or keto even, that I wasn't going to drink my calories. So that was back when I was counting calories, and I just decided it's just not worth it to drink, 400 calories of lemonade. If that means like there's a whole meal I've lost now because I drank. And so I just decided to stop drinking my calories. And it's not even something I think about anymore. It doesn't cross my mind, and and it doesn't even really feel like a loss. Do you have any food rules like that, Arian?
I definitely try not to drink my calories, and for the most part, yeah, I'm on that. Um, there's a little bit, so when I do have coffee, there's some cream in there, so there's calories from that. I'm trying to use like really just a splash and not a ton. Um, and what else? So that's the main place I drink calories, and
Mm-hmm.
it's the only one. It's kept to a minimum. Um, I generally try not to eat past like 7, 8 o'clock at night.
Mm-hmm.
If I do, I keep it really light, like one piece of jerky or something. It's very rare that I'm eating a whole meal at that time, unless I am like certain, like, nah, this is hunger.
Mm-hmm.
So a little snack to get me through the night is not going to work. I need to eat. And that's actually lately, that's what I've been doing. Even when I do feel hungry that late at night, is for make
Mm-hmm.
myself eat a whole meal.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're really hungry, then cook some eggs and some bacon or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, so and I guess that points to a general rule, which is just no snacking.
Yeah. Well, I
Um,
was going to come to that. Yes, I think that is rule number one, no snacking. If you're
yeah,
hungry, of course, you can eat a meal, but you need to make sure your meals are big enough to get you through. And if they are not, you need to change your meals, but no snacking.
yeah, yeah. And so, okay, here's a dilemma. What if you feel like you're not snacking, but you do have maybe it could look like a snack and then a meal, but to you it really feels like one meal that was just broken up. Like, say you were making roast and you weren't super hungry when it first came out, but you wanted to taste it. So you cut off a chunk of it, not just like one little bite, but a chunk, maybe like 3 bites.
This
And you
sounds
ate
like
those 3 bites.
from experience.
Right, right. And then
Like this
like,
happened yesterday.
oh no, this was today.
Okay.
Um, I cooked a bunch of goat and I got all
Ah.
this goat. I wanted to taste it and it was good. So
Hmm.
I ate a good amount, but I had already had what I had planned on eating for dinner already ready. So I only ate enough of that goat to get a good taste of it. And I mean like a good taste. This was not just one bite. This was like really like 6 bites. It was like almost half a meal. And then I ate again,
Hmm.
and now I'm totally full. I'm just drinking this water, and I'll probably be straight for the rest of the night.
Hmm.
Does that sound like snacking?
Um, I I don't know. That's sort of an in between. It sounds like, when you want to try to time your meal when the roast is ready. Because I get it, you cook something, you spend all day cooking it, like when it's ready, I want to eat it then. I don't want to reheat it later. I want to eat it right then. So I get it. But so yeah, that's a kind of dilemma. I would say, don't break up your meals, like eat the full meal and then wait until the next meal.
Mm,
So no snacking. Now, sometimes that leads me to having more meals because it's like, well, I want a meal now. I'm gonna have a meal. And with
Right.
carnivore, I think that you can get down a lot of food. You know, like there's a limit to your appetite, but there's still quite a bit of room between I'm satisfied and I'm gonna vomit because I've eaten too much. There's still room in there, so you can get some down. And I've definitely seen myself put on some weight, but I know if I were eating just regular American diet, or if even if I were eating keto, I would have really packed on some weight. So it's interesting that there's a lot more leeway on carnivore for overeating. That's
Hmm.
definitely notable. Um,
Yeah. I feel like even in that situation, I didn't have to worry about like, oh, well, if I eat this, then it's gonna be too much and it's gonna mess up my appetite. Like it's fine if it messes it up. I
mhm,
eat less later. That's not a problem at all.
mhm.
And I guess I facetiously kind of asked you the question because to me it feels like one meal just broken up. And not like broken up by a long period of time, but they were like within an hour of each other. Um,
Oh, okay. I mean, if it's in within an hour, I don't know. That kind of feels like one meal. But if it's like 2 or 3 hours, then it's like,
oh,
yeah.
yeah. At that point, if I had known that I was gonna wait that long, before the next meal, I probably would just eat my fill the first time.
Hmm.
That wouldn't, yeah, that would be weird
Yeah.
because then it's like you're not giving yourself enough time in between, or I guess there is some, I don't know exactly, but like maybe your insulin's coming down in between and your blood sugar is going down in between. But like I just wouldn't want to.
Yeah.
Meals are events. I want them to happen and I want them to be distinct things. I don't want to
Yeah.
be having a meal throughout the day
Well, how do you
or
so how
even
do
throughout the
you
course of
define
hours.
how do you define a meal? Because for me, like I grew up eating, my mom used to order takeout a lot, it was always takeout. So as a child, I decided when I grew up, I was always going to sit at a table. I was never going to eat with plastic knives or plastic forks, not after a container. And a meal was to be an event where I paid attention to the meal. So I still feel that way. So if
Mhm.
I'm having, a snack, I'm sitting around and I'm just like eating on the couch. Dinner is there's a plate, there's a fork, there's a knife, there's a napkin. It's on a table and I am sitting before it with my attention put to it. So I make those distinctions for me with a meal. Do you do that or does it matter? Like, does the location and
No,
the hoopla around it change your view of it?
no, those only change when there's company. Like if somebody's coming over, then I'm like, all right, I'm trying to get both our meals done at the same time. Or if it's one thing, then I'm fixing two plates. And we usually, I mean, right now my dining room table is my office. So there's no eating at the table, but there is like setting up of tray tables at the couch and there is like sitting down to eat as a group.
Hmm.
When it's me by myself, though, I very easily will put something on a plate and sometimes shout out to Deb on a cutting board and just take it to wherever I was before then
Yeah.
and just eat that thing as I'm doing whatever else I'm doing. And it's a completely like, it's almost like the meal's not even happening after the first couple bites. Like those
Hmm.
first bites are like, oh, this tastes really good. And then I'm over that. And then I'm just eating
Yeah.
and I'm
Yeah.
just cutting until it's done or until I'm tired of eating.
Yeah. Well, for
So
me,
yeah, most of
like,
the time it's really not special at all. I guess what makes it a meal is like the amount of food that it is. Like it's enough to make me full as opposed to enough to just shut me up.
hmm yeah. Well, that distinction for me helps me too. Like if I'm eating foods, like if I'm eating, pork rinds or something that you might consider snacky, if I'm
Hmm.
sitting down at a table and I put a portion on my plate and I've done whatever, then I don't feel it doesn't feel snacky to me anymore. It feels like this is a meal. This is part of a meal. And I can get up and I can get more and I can add things to it if I feel like it's not enough, and I'm not feeling satisfied. But there's like a distinct beginning, middle, and end to eating it, and then when it's over, it's over. And that kind of helps me from like having these foods just, endlessly go on, chomping on them.
Hmm.
Yeah. So
That
I don't
makes
know.
sense.
Yeah, for those of you in the chat, let me know if you if you're fork, knife, and napkin people, or do you just, eat whenever, wherever, standing over a sink, it doesn't matter. Um,
Which I've done before. I've finished my meal in the kitchen that I cooked it in because I just didn't have time to put it somewhere and sit down and think about eating it. Like it was just hungry.
right.
I'm eating right then. I
No,
I
I got
sometimes eat meals while I'm doing other things in the kitchen.
Oh, no, no, no. No. Can't do that. Yeah.
Wait,
So,
so what would happen if you did?
oh, I wouldn't want to do that. Like it's not eating. I want to sit
Mm,
down and enjoy the experience, feel it,
mm,
let it settle in my stomach and then get up and go on and do whatever. But I don't want to be doing other things while eating. Or I just do those other things and when I'm finished, then I can have the meal.
mm. Yeah, eating's not normally an experience for me anymore.
I even like have good dishes that I use just for myself.
It's dope. It's
Yeah.
definitely, it sounds nice. It's just not what I do,
Yeah.
come to think of it. Like I
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
I don't normally wake up and think like, oh, this is what I'm gonna do today. I'm gonna eat this. I'm gonna take out this meat now, or I'm gonna buy this meat and it's gonna be so good. I'm so looking forward to it. Like that very rarely happens anymore.
Hmm. Because
Like,
like
but when
first thing
I
in the
eat,
morning is so go ahead.
well, no, ask the question. I can reach that point.
Well, I was gonna say first thing in the morning, like I get up and I go to the dog park. But before I go, I make sure to take down any meat so that when I come back, like I can cook breakfast. And so while I'm
Mhm.
there, it's like, oh, yum, I've got this to look forward to when I get back.
And I guess that happens sometimes, but it's rare now. I do take out the meat in the morning, if not the night before. And if it's the night before, then it's already thawed and I'm throwing it into the refrigerator to stay cool, or I'm cooking it right then because I planned on having it for breakfast, which I do sometimes. But
Mm-hmm.
and I really enjoy the meal as I'm eating it, at least for those first few bites.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not like the entire thing isn't an experience. And there are some meals that aren't an experience, period. It's just the same bacon and eggs that I always eat, and I always feel really good about it. But it's not like, oh, Dan, you remember Tuesday's bacon and eggs? Like, you
Well, I mean,
remember
it's an
Monday's steak?
experience. I mean, there's definitely certainly some steaks that stand out more than others, but it's not it's not that. It's just like the experience of sitting down and enjoying it. Like I just don't like to,
Mm,
you know, rush through it. And I especially hate feeling like, I've got to rush eating, like I've only got 5 minutes to get the food down. Like there's a certain amount of time that it takes to chew and swallow. And so like when I'm trying to rush through
mhm.
it, like I hate that feeling. And so,
I agree.
I end up not finishing the food and I don't like that.
Yeah. So yes, that very much. I generally, and this may be a thing that people should just try in life, period. But I try not to rush as much as possible. Um, which sounds stupid, but I think it's really a thing. Like,
Um, no, it doesn't sound
don't
stupid. I think you're right. Well, I would say it differently. I'm really trying to accept that things take the amount of time that they take. So,
Yes.
however long that takes, like I have to accept that that's how long it takes and not try to change that.
Yeah.
That's a better
Yeah.
way of
That's a
saying I'm not gonna rush. And people are like, that's right, y'all are so shiftless. You don't rush.
right. That's
Don't
what it
rush at
sounds
all.
like.
Yeah.
I mean, but that is part of it. It is like there are times where I'm like, well, I'm already late. I'm not gonna fast forward my process just because I'm late. Like I'm not gonna speed through traffic. I'm
Yeah.
gonna get there when I get there. I'm already late. There is
Yep.
some like accepting of your circumstances, which it effectively is the same thing as what you're saying.
Yeah.
Accept that things take the time they take. So if you, and this may be really helpful for a lot of people, and this is actually, you know what? Cyrus talks about this. He
Hmm.
says that you should make eating its own thing. So you cook whatever, you put that in the middle of the table, you actually sit down at a table that is for eating, and you take from that big plate to your small plate just as much as you want to eat right then.
Hmm.
And you keep doing that until you're done, and then you're done eating. And
Yeah.
like have conversation with your family or something. Don't like use that time to do a million other things. And I generally think he's right with that. So like usually when I'm eating, it's not like I'm not doing anything productive. I'm doing other stuff when I'm eating, but none of it's productive. It's not like
Hmm.
Arian's getting work done and eating. No, it's
Hmm.
like I'm watching TV, playing a video game, watching a movie, listening to a podcast or something. Like it's never like work is happening while I'm eating.
Right.
So I'm enjoying that time. Um, I guess just not in that way that is like
Right.
sitting down. I do that sometimes, but
And
normally
is it
that's in front of
nice?
the TV. Yeah, yeah. When I have a meal that like requires a knife and a fork, and it's on my mind that what I want to do is like just watch something and eat, and I can just sit that plate in front of me, and I have two things to focus on: the eating, and then while I'm chewing, is the thing on the TV.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, there you go. So, let's see. We have Mr. Gavel was summing it up. No snacking. Don't eat past 8. Drink water. Eat a little salt to see if hunger goes away before eating. So, yeah, those are definitely some things to ask yourself. And as you become fat adapted, hunger, your relationship to hunger, of course, changes. And I'm sure many of you have
Hmm.
seen that. When you're a sugar burner and and you get cravings all the time, it's like, I've got to eat now, I've got to eat now. And you have that desperate feeling. But when you're carnivore, like you can be hungry and then it's like, oh, okay, well, I'll get to it. And then hunger kind of keeps coming back and says, hey, I'm kind of hungry. Okay, hey, I'm kind of hungry. But it might take you a really long time. Like yesterday, I think I ate, or whenever I posted that breakfast of like fat brisket and scrambled eggs. And I think I finished that at like 11. And then the next time I got around to eating, it was 8 at night. And I was like, wow, I can't believe like 9 hours went by. And it was just kind of like, okay, I mean, I thought about eating periodically, but it wasn't like an urgent thing. And, and it just kind of, the day, just got away from me. So yeah, there you go.
Hmm.
So yeah. So emotional, yeah, snacking is emotional eating. Yes. You can eat the same foods that you might eat as snacks as a meal, but you have to make it a meal and decide what is a meal for you. Um, I eat bacon while the eggs are cooking. So for me, I really put a halt on that because then I don't enjoy the rest of the bacon when I sit down and eat the eggs. Or if all the bacon is gone and now I'm sitting down and eating eggs, I have no bacon. It's like no. So I draw the line. No snacking on the food as it's cooking. And also,
Yeah.
really enjoy the feeling of eating when I'm hungry. And if I have a little bit, that takes the edge off that hunger. I don't sit down before a plate like really hungry, and I lose that joy that comes from eating when you're hungry. Do you have that? Does that feel good to you?
Yeah, it does. It feels really good. And then, so you don't feel the joy when you it, all right, so I'm catching feedback. Are you hearing any of that?
No.
Okay, all right. So I'll just ignore it. It's just some reason it's coming back to me. But so if you're eating a little bit and that takes the edge off the hunger, are you feeling, do you get the joy when you eat that little bit?
Yes, but not enough. Like I like that feeling when you sit down in front of your table, you got a big steak sitting in front of you, there's some butter melting on top of it, the fat is done perfectly, it's perfectly crispy, and I'm like, yeah, I got a pound and a half of meat I get to eat right now. Like there is some joy in that, but if I have been snacking on a couple of pieces of bacon beforehand, it's taken away some of that hunger, and I know I'm not going to be able to get down the whole steak, and I know it's going to be like like my eyes are enjoying the beauty, but my mouth and stomach are now not enjoying it as much because I'm not as hungry.
Mm,
So that's what I don't like. So if I ate those little pieces of bacon maybe an hour before, it might not be such a problem. But if it's right before the meal, that it takes away a significant amount of my appetite, which is weird, but it does for me. So yeah, I'm pretty strict. When I'm get that close to the meal, it's like, come on, I can just make it. I can have all the bacon on my plate and eat it on my plate when I sit down with it. But if I'm just picking at it, yeah.
okay. So, all right,
Um,
three people said that they can hear the feedback, but
really,
I'm not hearing it now. So hopefully it's gone.
I'm not hearing it either. That's so odd.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Um,
you didn't hear it any time that it happened, but they were hearing it before. So anyway, I guess let me
no,
get
that's
this out
weird.
before it comes back. I I did that with bacon and eggs this morning, and it was much less enjoyable. So I'm not doing it anymore. Like I'm waiting until I make a whole plate and I eat it all at once. I think
Yes,
part of it is I really think I don't enjoy eating a meal over a long period of time,
yes.
which for me means like really anything more than like 15 minutes, maybe. Like I
Man, you're just shoveling it down.
I I guess, yeah, it takes you more than 15 minutes to eat. Well, wait, are you still all
Yes.
mad?
No, well, no, but I'll eat a good chunk of food, but I like to take my time, like eat the bite, enjoy it, swallow it, put the fork down, eat the bite, and so on. And the way I can
Hmm.
tell that I'm no longer hungry is that there is longer and longer time between the time that I pick up the fork again, between that when I put it down and when I pick it up again. So in the beginning of the meal, there's not as much time, but later on, there'll be a couple minutes, or I'm like looking at a post or reading something. But yeah, but like I said, I like you. I don't want to rush eating. I want to sit there. I want to enjoy the whole experience. I want to enjoy the food and relax. Like, because if I get all tensed up, my stomach is like, we gotta go. Oh my
Hmm.
God, why are you sitting here eating? And, I don't like that.
So, do you have to force yourself to slow down, or does that just happen naturally? Like when you decide to take the time, does the slowdown happen just does it just come with that, or are you telling yourself slow down?
No, if I think that I don't have the time to eat, I don't eat. That's what ends up happening. Like
Hmm.
if I decide I'm hungry and there's a half an hour before I've got to get on a Zoom call, I know that that's not really enough time for me to make something, sit down, eat it, enjoy it, relax, and all of that. So then I'm sort of stuck with, ugh, I'm hungry though. So that's when I might have like a piece of jerky and then, get on the call. I'm still hungry, but, there's nothing to do but wait.
Hmm. So I find that, oh yeah, so the eating spread out is not enjoyable. Um, I made this is one of those days where I did not have a good gauge on my hunger. So I ate, it's because I was eating random things. I think that's why.
Yeah.
So this was the morning, so there was a big chunk of fat on one of the pieces of goat. So I cut that off and air fried that and ate it.
Uh-huh.
And then um, sometime a little bit later, like I was thinking, like, oh, I just want to taste what the fat was like, not thinking that I really shouldn't have. I should have just, I could have saved it, put the rest of the goat to start cooking, and eaten that fat whenever I was going to eat breakfast. I thought that
Yeah.
I was going to eat the fat and then eat breakfast, and that they wouldn't need to be close to each other. So then by the time I go to eat breakfast, my gauge is all screwed off. It's screwed up. So
Yeah.
I, I cooked 2 eggs thinking that there'll be enough. Also, there was 2 eggs left in the thing, and I didn't feel like going in the fridge and picking up the second one, the
Uh-huh.
second carton of eggs. And I cooked bacon ends, and I think, yeah, I didn't do them at the same time. So the got done first. I ate those. Then I ate the bacon ends, and then decided I was still hungry and ate 2 more eggs. The stupidest, like least satisfying meal I've had in got to
So you
be
had
at least a
four
week, if
eggs.
not more.
You had four
Yeah,
eggs and a big chunk of fat.
right. 4 eggs, a big chunk of fat, and the bacon, but all
Yeah.
at different times. Like
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
bad. It's not as fun. It's not as enjoyable. Um, I don't feel like it screwed me up for the day or something, but
Uh-huh.
definitely that normal joy of like having the meal when you're hungry, and then at the end of it knowing that you're done, and that's like another good feeling. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm done. Like I don't need to eat for the next 5 6 hours
Yeah.
at least. I didn't have that feeling. I just ended up not being hungry again, but I felt like, well, damn, I don't know when I'm gonna
Yeah.
feel like eating, because I've been screwed up. I've been eating for like the past 2 hours.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the part that I don't like. Yeah, that feeling like you lose out on that joy of, and eating should be pleasurable, you know. So I think it's important to note too when we talk about emotional eating, it's not that we're saying, you know, eating should only be utilitarian and there shouldn't be any pleasure in it, but the pleasure comes from satisfying the hunger and then, you know, being full and satisfied afterwards. And then, you know, but that's a different pleasure than like, you know, having something to gnaw on while you're ruminating over something your boss said earlier in the day. You know, those are different. I don't even know if I would call that pleasure. You know, it's a
Hmm.
different thing that you're doing there. It's not pleasure. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Like I think it's fine to. There's soothing your emotions with a quick fix that is food, and then there is I'm doing the thing that I enjoy.
Uh-huh.
In this case, eating, which feels good because it's
Yeah.
good for me.
Yeah. Did Virginia just say that our eating is gentrified because we sit down at a table with a knife, a fork, and a napkin?
Virginia was talking about your eating, ma'am. I remember when that comment came in. She
Oh,
said you eat gentrified.
because I use fine china? I don't know.
Apparently, it's that. It's the sitting down with a fork and a plate to a specific table. Um,
Mm.
she probably has a vision of you like with a handkerchief or something like in your neck, like.
Well, I do dress for dinner. I mean, come on. Seriously, you don't change? Oh,
Right.
yeah.
So
Heathens here.
yeah, she
Heathens.
she was talking about you.
Hmm. Hmm. I mean, why not treat ourselves nicely? There's I and so often I hear people too saying, "Oh, come on, you should be, you're so strict all the time. Like, you got to give yourself a break sometimes. Like, you got to let yourself have these things sometimes." They're talking about like eating a treat or candy or whatever. But it's kind of like, those aren't treats. They're actually, poisons. So
Right.
it's like, what is the treat in that? Letting go and eating that, you're talking about it as if it is an innocuous substance, which it is not. So if you change the way you're thinking about it, the treat is getting to feel great and being emotionally resilient and being full and not ever having to go hungry and still being able to lose weight and get healthier. That's the
Hmm.
treat. So I do feel like I have really reframed the way I think about food and pleasure.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Like my treats are other things. Food is a treat when it's like I'm buying seafood, like we've talked before about like bringing out the
Mm,
scallops on certain nights or something. Like those are the treats for me. Or the
mm,
treat is when I decide, and this is when I do like really look forward to the meal. I'm like, you know what?
mhm.
Making this chuck roast jerky today. It's gonna be
Yeah,
a fine night tonight.
yeah,
Or allowing myself to eat something that's more expensive than what I normally eat, like a
mhm,
ribeye.
yeah,
But other than that, I receive my like happiness from life in a ton of other ways that don't involve food.
yeah, yeah. But it's hard, because sometimes you really have to unravel a lot in your life. And when I first went keto and started changing the way I eat, it was like, all the things that I was pretending not to know, like, kind of came rushing forward. And then it was kind of like, okay, am I gonna quit my job? Like, am I gonna stop talking to this person? And,
Hmm.
and those are not things that you can really change quickly, or perhaps they are not things you should change quickly. You should have give some thought to your job before you're like, you know,
Probably.
F y'all, I'm out of here. Yeah,
Probably give it a little bit of thought. But yeah, it's like
yeah,
um those are like real it makes you realize things.
yeah, yeah. So there you go. Carnivore, it gets you healthy, but it will upend your life. But hopefully in the long run, in a good way. But it will upend your life.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of funny how it feels like everything reaches back into like the self-improvement that people don't want to do. It's like
Hmm.
you want to just focus on health, but like if you haven't fixed your lifestyle,
Hmm.
your physical health is still going to be, it's going to be a function of that as well as other things that are happening.
Yeah.
Um, we haven't even talked about sleep, but
Oh
that's
God.
a huge one. If your sleep's trash and you're worried about your emotional eating, like you got another thing you got to fix at the same time. Possibly before it may be that your lack of sleep is causing your emotions to be out of whack where you need to emotionally.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I totally think that that is true. And you will just be battling cravings if you're not getting enough sleep.
Yeah.
It's really hard. So Mr. Gavel is picturing us dressed up like in Bridgerton.
I really got to start watching this show.
I
I'm
know
turned off
everybody is
by
talking about it. I haven't watched it either, but I gotta.
my parents are watching it now. So I'm like, all right, I got to because
Yeah,
I can't stand
yeah,
to not be in this conversation at all.
yeah.
But
I see Jocelyn's
black
enjoying
people,
it. Yeah. No,
uh,
Jocelyn was
black
saying that
people
she
in
and her
European,
kids.
One of us has to decide. You go.
I was just adding that Jocelyn said that she and her siblings couldn't eat dinner until they had to be dressed appropriately for dinner. So
What?
in some, yeah, in some households it really was like that. I definitely had
What's
to
dressed
wash up.
appropriately?
I, I don't know. For me, like I definitely had to wash my hands and like, put on something. Like I couldn't come like in just like a t-shirt and shorts. Like maybe I had to put on pants or something like that. So
Uh,
I definitely and also even when I went to camp, like, we had to dress for dinner. I mean, it wasn't like, in a suit and tie, but you had to freshen yourself up a little and, this is dinner.
your
So,
more appropriate clothes,
mhm,
your proper attire.
mhm.
Huh.
So I do kind of have that feeling. And dinner, dinner should be an event. Like it shouldn't just be, you know, just grabbing something. But go ahead. So like in Bridgerton, yes, we could be, showing up like in fancy outfits and
Yeah, which is what I think of in dressing for dinner. But
oh, Jocelyn made it clear, no PJs, no hair rollers.
yeah,
100% agree. Yeah.
I feel like I feel like the same things were a rule, but we didn't call it like dress for dinner. It was just like past a certain point, like you weren't allowed to. No, you know what? If you were home by yourself, or if it was just my family at home, we could eat in whatever we had on, because nobody was walking around half naked. But yeah, so like pajamas would be fine. Like I regularly ate breakfast at the table in whatever I'd slept in, and then maybe go get dressed. I don't feel like we did that for dinner because by then we were all dressed. Um, but I feel like I didn't have any sisters, but at like family dinners and stuff, nobody came around in anything that didn't look like it was like we were all ready to go outside at any moment. Like that's how we
Hmm.
were dressed.
Hmm.
Nobody came in with rollers
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
and nobody ate with a house coat on at big family dinners. At just my family, especially like fifth Sunday morning, like my dad might get dressed and then put a robe on top of his church clothes to protect the church clothes from the splash of fluid.
Okay. I was like, that's a new look. A robe on top of your
Right, right.
clothes.
No, but there was a practical reason to it.
Yeah.
And my mom might like eat dinner in her pajamas and then go get dressed, also
Mhm.
protecting the clothes. And that keeps us all from using the hot water at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, and I've been admonished washing hands before dinner is like, of course, a given. Um, yeah. So,
Yeah, we didn't have to do that.
so anyway, there you guys go. Oh, and so one more food rule that I thought was helpful, that I've heard people talking about is, no buying food from like the convenience store or Rite Aid or Dwayne Reed or 7-Eleven or gas stations. Like, making a decision that if you're buying food for yourself, you can, but it has to be, like a restaurant or a grocery store. But convenience store, it's just not a place you're going to find good food. You're not going to find a meal. You're going to find a snack there.
That's a good rule. There are plenty of times where I find myself like in the car with somebody. Not
Hmm.
as much lately, but this used to be a thing. Either in the car with somebody, or they're going somewhere where it's a convenience store. It's a Wawa or
Hmm.
a 7-Eleven or something like that, or whatever the little thing is in whatever gas station.
Hmm.
And they ask me what I want. Like, do you want anything? And they're just being nice, but also they're not carnivore.
Hmm.
So one, I'm put on the spot, and two, I'm thinking about like, well, now that I think about it, I could use something. And this is a thought that I didn't have before I was offered this convenience store food.
Right.
And
Right.
I go, well, no, no. I got to just tell myself no so I can tell them no because
Hmm.
there's nothing that I need to eat that's inside there.
Yeah. Exactly. There's nothing in there. But Katura says, "Oh, but Wawa." Yeah,
It,
I remember.
Wawa is the devil. It's the devil.
Yeah.
Their eggs are crap. Their eggs are made with some sort of fake. I forget what's in the eggs, but somebody was. I think one of y'all in one of these YouTubes was talking about what's in Wawa eggs. It, just say no to Wawa. There's nothing. I
Hmm.
guess the coffee. They have little
Maybe.
bags of pork rinds, I guess. But
Maybe.
even those are snacks. You're not crunching those up and putting them on your steak when you buy them at Wawa.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Um, I'm De Brown says we should watch. Please talk about Wawa.
Plies. He's a rapper. Plies is talking about Wawa. It sounds like a good time. I'm searching for that right now so I can watch it after this.
Virginia asked what's Wawa. It's basically like a 7-Eleven, but they're only in what, Pennsylvania and Delaware, I think.
Pennsylvania, Delaware, New Jersey. There's some in Maryland now. I don't know how far south they go, but
Hmm.
I've got one by my job and one by there's a couple on the way if I was to drive to like Delaware or Philly from Baltimore.
Yeah.
There's a few. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, kind of like Sheets. I feel like it's way better than Sheets. I feel like it's way better than 7-Eleven too. That Wawa has the best coffee that I've ever had from anywhere but a person's house or like a specialty coffee place.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, they're in Florida. Wow.
Wow. Okay. Um, yeah, Virginia, it's a funny name for a corner store. I think Mr. The Piggly Wiggly was a funny name for a grocery store. I
That's a
used to think that
hilarious
was
name.
hilarious. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, the thing is, so do y'all call stuff corner stores even when it's not like on a
On the
corner in the
corner.
city? Like if it's in the suburbs and it's just out being its own business, you still call it a corner store?
I never used the word corner store at all, but I would call it a
Oh yeah.
bodega. Yeah, that's what we call it in New York, but or a convenience store.
Hmm.
Yeah, but Mr. Gavel, it's not just a food place. It's like it's a convenience store, so you can get like, I don't know, some motor oil. You can get
Yep.
like some nail clippers. You can get maybe some aluminum
Medicine.
foil. Yeah,
Hmm.
so
They
it's
have actual groceries. Like you can probably buy like six or a dozen eggs there for some ridiculous price. You can probably buy a gallon of milk from there,
hmm.
and you can buy gas. And the dope thing about Wawa's is the ATMs inside don't charge a fee.
Oh
And
wow,
if you
that's big.
right, and if you find a Wawa that has an air pump, it's always free for like putting air in your tires.
Nice. There you go. So we've covered a lot of stuff here, and I hope that this was helpful for you on emotional eating. So, I think that for everybody, we're all dealing with emotional eating. But if you feel like your situation is a little bit more severe than that, then I definitely think that, seeking more professional help on it is, it's totally the right thing to do, and there's nothing wrong with doing that. So, if your health insurance allows, go do your mental health care. Like, get therapy if you feel like it. Like that is an absolutely acceptable and helpful thing to do. And I don't know that we're ever going to eradicate emotional eating, but making it just a more rare occurrence may be, the thing that we're the best that we can hope for.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like you're there are going to be there are going to be times where food soothes, and I think that there's a reason that it does that. Like, I don't think
Hmm.
biologically that it's wrong to ever have food as a soothing for a bad emotion.
Hmm.
But you definitely want to have other techniques that are your go-tos. I don't think food should be your number one strategy. And I also think it helps a lot that when we do emotionally eat, even as carnivores, the food we're eating is much better for us and much less likely to cause further problems.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that was a problem too on keto or like if you're doing paleo, it's just like, oh, well, like nuts. That was the thing, that I was constantly
Hmm.
emotionally eating. So it was nice to go to carnivore and just like take that all out entirely.
Yeah, and that's probably my one or a big complaint that I have about keto is just
Yeah,
there's too much leeway.
yeah.
And
Now,
I
I
was keto all day, eating a quart-sized bag of nuts sometimes every day.
did you say a corpse size bag?
A
That's a
quart.
lot. Oh, a quart. A quart. Yeah.
I ate a
Just in
coffin
case.
full of nuts every
Yeah.
day.
Yeah, you're weighting nuts. That's a lot.
Right.
That's a lot. Yeah. So Katura says that sugar talk was great, and I think I use sugar for emotional eating, but the need to eat emotionally has decreased, and definitely
Deceased.
no more sugar after that conversation. Yeah. Right. So, and I think it's important to sort of separate, sugar and like the drive to eat sugar and the drive to eat emotionally. Because when you take out the sugar, you take away like all that biological, drive that's going on. But you might still have some emotional eating. Now,
Hmm.
the only place where I think we still struggle is cheese. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So cheese does have the ability to uh what's it's got that opioid like effect in the brain. And
Hmm.
so you can use cheese or you can use dairy for to get that same kind of little boost and high. And I've definitely seen people doing that. So I don't know. So that's something to consider. Like if you find yourself knocking back like a half a pound of cheese a day, yeah, and I know when I was eating cheese, like cheese can be filling and I can be full and stuffed afterward, but it is not satisfying in the same way that beef was. So if I ended up eating the bulk of my meal coming from cheese, I knew I wasn't going to feel as good as when the bulk of my meal came from beef.
Yeah.
So, mhm.
I generally feel like I can add a bunch of cheese to a meal and it'll give me that heaven feeling that I don't get every time from eating. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, it's just it's wrong. It's not right. It doesn't feel right, and I feel much better not eating cheese.
Yeah, yeah. So something to pay attention to with cheese for you. Yeah, and the cheese crisps, yes, those can be really deadly. Oh, and Jocelyn wishes she could do away with cheese. Yeah, you sometimes you just gotta, bite the bullet and try it. Yeah,
Yeah, that's how I do it. You just do it. I feel like I guess like cheese, you're not going to get the same withdrawal symptoms that coffee gives. So it should be easier to just go ahead and stop. Like
yeah,
if you really want to, you can just stop.
yeah,
I think.
yeah. Well, it's definitely a decision. All right,
Mm.
guys, it's been an awesome time talking to you guys today. I know we went a little long, but the conversation was good. So, man, we've got a bunch of people here. So, all of you here, please hit that like button, subscribe, and hit the little bell icon so you can get notification every time we go live. and look forward to talking to us next Thursday. So, yeah, in a week. I'm looking forward to it. And let me know. Send me a DM or a message, or send me a message on Instagram if there's a topic that you'd like us to cover, because I'm open to your suggestions, and want to make sure that we're delivering content that is helpful. All right,
Yeah.
guys. So I will see you guys later. Bye.
Peace.